Hello, what we're going to be covering in this video is the lab FavoriteAthletes. The objective of the lab is to plan out and create an app that uses the proper MVC design model view controller. Your app will have two scenes for displaying the user's favorite athletes. It will allow the user to add new athletes to the list as well as to edit existing entries. So basically what we're going to be doing in this app is we're going to be creating an athlete model which will store information for the athlete's name, age, league, and team. We're going to be having an athlete table view controller which will handle the view associated with displaying the user's list of favorite athletes. And then we're going to have a form view controller which will handle the views and user input associated with entering and editing the athlete information. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go into my desktop, go ahead and click on that, go into the student resources file, and if you look on down under lesson 4.3 model view controller, there is a skeleton project that's been set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and copy this onto my desktop. So we'll just go ahead and paste it onto my desktop, and I will drag it over here, and I will go ahead and open it up. And then what we're going to do next is we're just going to go ahead and take a look at what is actually available for us. As it loads, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change my simulator to an iPhone 8 so I don't forget that. So what we do have is we have a navigation controller, and then we basically have two separate controllers. If you go ahead and click on the first item, My Favorite Athletes, basically what that has is our table view. And we have not talked about table views. We will get into table views in lessons 5 and 6. They basically throw this, using these table views out there in this lesson. So some of the code you probably will not understand until we talk about it in future lessons. So basically this is the table where it's going to list all of the athletes that have been entered. And then our other view controller, if you go ahead and just click on the My Favorite Athlete scene, and then if we go into the class, it has already been set up with a class called Athlete Table View Controller. You look over to the left, so that is the controller associated with this view. They mentioned that there are two segues. There's a Show Segue Edit Athlete. And basically what you do there is the user will select one of the cells, which is an existing athlete, and what will happen is that information will get segued into our list view in our athlete form view controller. So that would be our form controller, not our list controller. And then you can go ahead and edit the athlete. The other segue we have is an Add Athlete segue, and basically what that does is if you press the plus button, we'll transition over into our form view controller, and what will happen is that the form will not be filled in with any information, and we can go ahead and add our athlete into that form. The other thing is that the form view has a save button, and that will trigger an unwind segue to bring the user back to our table view. And like I mentioned already, our athlete table view controller is set up with the following class right here. And there may be an error or two that'll appear. Right now there's one error appearing, and that's because we have not gone in and defined our athlete yet, which will be our struct that we're going to create. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and create the model. So let me just go ahead and I'll just click on Favorite Athlete. I'll right click, and what I want to do is I want to create a new file, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a Swift file. So I'll just go ahead and click on Next. The name I want to give it is Athlete, so I'll just specify Athlete, and we will go ahead and click on Create. So now what it's done, it's created this new athlete file. I'll just go ahead and move it up. This is where we're going to put our model information in there. So we're going to create a struct. So we'll just type in the keyword struct, and then the name of the struct will be athlete. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to let name the 4 variables. Our name will be set as a string. And what we're going to do is we're going to set the age as a string also. Basically, that'll help us when we try to go ahead and actually add this information into our text labels. And so that's what we're going to currently set it as, a string. We'll set our league as a string, and then we will go ahead and set our team as a string. And then what they tell you to do is to go ahead and create a variable called description. Again, we could have just went in and used our custom convertible and adopted that protocol. So I'll just go ahead and create this new variable, and within the string, what we're going to do is we're just going to return information related to our table. So it will be our name related to the actual athlete in our table. Age, years old, and plays for the team in the league. Okay, so that is our structure. So we've created our structure. So what they want us to do next is, let me just go ahead and click on Command S, so it'll go ahead and save that file. I just want to go back into our athlete table view controller, and that should remove the error now that we have that athlete structure created. So what they want us to do next is create a new Swift file named athlete form view controller. That subclass is our UI view controller, and we're going to set the view controllers in your storyboard to be connected to this class. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go back to my main storyboard, and one thing that I did notice when they actually created this, if I go ahead and click on my athlete form view controller scene, they've already gone in and added that athlete form view controller as the class for that view controller. So I'm just going to Command C that, and now I'm going to go into and create a new view controller class. So let me just go ahead and right click. I want to create a new file. It's going to be a Cocoa Touch class. I'll go ahead and click on Next, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and Command V my athlete form view controller file name. It's going to be a subclass of UI view controller, and the language will be Swift. So I will just go ahead and click on Next and click on Create. And what we've done is that form view controller has been created for us. So what we're going to do next, according to our instructions, is that they want us to go ahead and add a var property called athlete. and it'll be of type athlete. So we will just go ahead and click in var and then athlete and then athlete. And what we're going to do is we're going to make this optional, because there's two ways that you can get to the form view controller from our table view controller. The first way is if you want to edit an existing athlete. So if we're editing an existing athlete, we're going to pass that information into our form view controller in the form of an athlete struct. But if we click on the plus button to add an athlete, we're not passing an athlete in to our athlete form view controller. So that's why we want to make it optional. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a function called update view. So let me just go down below our view did load function, and I will call it update view. And this is the function that we're going to go ahead and update the text views in our form view controller with the information that gets passed in if we're editing the athlete. So what we're going to do next, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a guard statement to go ahead, a guard let, to check to see if an athlete gets passed in. And if one does not gets passed in, we'll just go ahead and return. If an athlete actually does get passed in, and I need to specify my else statement here. So if an athlete does get passed in, what we're going to do is we're going to basically go ahead and take the information from the athlete that gets passed in. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to double up on an athlete. I'm going to go ahead and call this existing athlete, just so we don't get too many athletes, names of objects, variables in here. So we're going to call it existing athlete. So if an athlete gets passed in, then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add the information from that athlete structure into the four text fields that we have. But before we can do that, we need to go ahead and add some IB outlets. So I need to go back into my main storyboard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm in my view controller, my athlete form view controller, and then I'll go ahead and click on my assistant editor to bring up that view controller, and then we'll just control drag from our four text fields, and we'll go ahead and create our outlets. So the first outlet is going to be for my name text field, so we'll go ahead and connect that. Then we'll do the same thing for our age. We'll connect that. And we'll do the same thing for our league. We'll go ahead and connect that. And then we'll do it for our team. And we'll go ahead and connect that outlet. And then before I leave this view, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead. I know we're going to be pressing on the save button, so we definitely need to create an outlet for that save button. So let me just go ahead and control click. And what we're going to do is it's going to be an action, and we're just going to call it save button tapped. And what we want to do is we want to change the type to the UI button. So we'll have this added so we can go ahead and add the code once the save button has been tapped. So what we're going to do next then, I'm just going to go ahead and exit out of these views and then bring up my form viewer, control Swift file. And what we want to do next is we want to go ahead and populate our text fields for each text field for each of our text fields with the appropriate text. So it'll be existing athlete.name. Then the next one will be our age text field dot text property, and that'll be existing athlete.age. And then the next one will be our league text field dot text, and that'll be equal to our existing athlete dot league value. And then we need the code to go ahead and update our team. Text field dot text. And I want to make sure I spell league right. It will be existing dot team. Okay, so that is our update view method. The other thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and call that method when our view did load within our view did load function. Otherwise, it will not update our view for us. Okay, so again, what will happen is basically this guard will check to see if there is an existing athlete that gets passed in. If there is, we'll go ahead and update the text fields with values. If not, we'll just go ahead and return, and those text fields will remain blank. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and go in our save button tap code. And what we're going to do here is after the information has been added and the user presses on the save button, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new athlete object or structure. So we're going to use a guard-let again. So basically, by using this guard-let, we're checking to see if there is information in each one of our text fields. And if there is, we'll go ahead and save that. So we'll guard-let name equals name text field. And then we'll let our age equal our age text field dot text. And we'll let our league equal our league text field dot text. And we'll go ahead and let our team equal our team text field dot text. And then else we'll just go ahead and do a return. Okay, so we've gone ahead, we've populated our name, age, league, and team constants with values. So after we do that, we can go ahead and create our athlete. If there is values for each one of those in each one of those text fields. So it'll just be name, age, league, and then finally team. Okay, so what we've done in the Save button tapped, we've checked to see, using a guard statement to see if there is text for each one of those fields. If there is, we're just going to go ahead and create our athlete object. So this is the end of part one of the video. So what we're going to be doing in part number two is we're going to be working on step number 5, where we're going to be finishing the implementation in our athlete table view controller. So this is the end for part 1. So we will be talking to you in a little bit to go through part number 2.